Did you know that the Kitos War has very little archaeological evidence and that scholars mainly depend on the writings of a Roman Jewish historian named Josephus? Most people have not heard of the Kitos War, but it is also called the Second Jewish Revolt or the Diaspora Revolt. The Jewish people rose against the Roman Empire with similar devastating results as the First Jewish Revolt. Yet, even though the conflicts occurred around 117 CE, there is very little information about them. Few contemporary sources even mention the Kitos War, and some of the dates we have are likely unreliable. Still, historians do not doubt that the Kitos War actually occurred. Its consequences permanently impacted the Mediterranean and changed the Roman Empire. What were the causes of the Kitos War? The Romans governed the Jewish people for many years before the Kitos War. The Jewish people had already had one failed rebellion, the First Jewish Rebellion or the Great Jewish Revolt, which took place from 66 CE to 73 CE, involving the sacking of Jerusalem and the destruction of the Jewish temple. This rebellion would have weighed heavily upon the Jewish people's minds, but it does not appear to have been the only cause of the Kitos War. The diaspora fought this war. It consisted of the Jewish people who were no longer living in Judea or Israel because they had been exiled by stronger powers, like the Assyrians or Babylonians. Many had set up communities for themselves in other cities around the Roman Empire. However, they had to share those cities with Hellenistic Greeks, and these two groups often clashed over cultural differences. The Greeks and Romans would even worship their pagan gods openly and mock the Jewish people. The anti-Jewish sentiments perpetuated the conflict between the two groups. This rivalry is another possible cause of the Kitos War, and there appears to have been general unrest among the Jewish people. While cultural differences caused part of this unrest, some may have also been caused by the Jewish tax, a tax Jewish people had to pay to the Romans simply because they practiced the Jewish faith. This tax increased in severity over time and included women, children, and the elderly, which was untraditional at the time. These long-term causes helped build up to the Kitos War, but there were a few short-term causes as well. Emperor Trajan ruled Rome from 98 to 117 and was involved in the Parthian campaign shortly before the Jewish rebellion began. The Jewish people and the Parthians probably had collaborated in the past, but they were not necessarily allies. The Parthian Empire was more tolerant of Judaism than the Roman Empire. They even had a whole state of Jewish refugees called Nehardea. The Jewish people in the Parthian Empire were concerned about what would happen to them if they came under Roman rule. The diaspora Jews possibly saw the campaign as an opportunity to revolt while the emperor was focused elsewhere, thus increasing the odds of their success. Historians are unsure if the Jewish uprising was in collaboration with the Parthians, but the rivalry between the Hellenistic Greeks and the diaspora Jews continued to grow after the First Rebellion. Around the end of 115 CE, Emperor Trajan received word that there was a rebellion in Alexandria between the Jewish people and the Greeks. The tensions between the Jewish people and those around them had not been settled in the First Jewish Rebellion, and those issues were returning to the surface. The people were ready to fight for their freedom again. How did the Kitos War start? Many of the events of the Kitos War had been lost or obscured by time. There aren't many contemporary documents that discuss the rebellion in detail. Thus, much of the information we have is vague, including the dates of the war. Most of the historians believe the Kitos War began near the end of 115 CE or the beginning of 116 CE. It started in Cyrene, the capital of Cyrenaica. There appears to have been significant damage to several Hellenistic temples. The Temple of Apollo was burned to the ground. The revolt also damaged the roads, which made food and supply distribution extremely difficult, and the public baths. Historians believe this damage came from the Jewish revolt because Trajan's successor, Emperor Hadrian, repaired the pagan god temples quickly, suggesting Jewish animosity towards the pagan religion at work in the revolt. From Cyrene, the revolt spread to Alexandria in Egypt, possibly as both Greeks fled to warn the city and the Jewish people went on the attack. Tensions were also high in Alexandria, so fighting quickly broke out as the rebels attacked the tomb of Pompey and several pagan temples. Typically, the Roman prefect of the city would put down any revolts, but this one soon became too much for Marcus Rutilius Lupus, who called for reinforcements. The fighting here was supposedly led by a man named Lucas, but historians have very little information on him. Historians are still determining exactly how the rebellion spread from Alexandria. Both Cyprus and Mesopotamia descended into revolt. Although they may have been related to the uprisings in Cyrene and Alexandria, it is also possible that the Jewish people there simply took inspiration from these other cities. If the four areas were connected during the Kitos War, then it is possible the Jewish people had a small fleet to help them. The rebellion in Cyprus was brutal and reportedly led by a man named Artemian. These rebels sacked the capital Salamis and supposedly killed hundreds of thousands of Greeks. Historians now believe this number to be exaggerated, but there is probably some truth to the violence. Quintus Marcius Turbo, a Roman prefect from the Praetorian Guard, halted the rebellion in Alexandria. He was sent by the emperor personally because grain had stopped coming to Rome due to the Kitos War. As Alexandria was one of the breadbaskets of the Roman Empire, the uprising was a severe problem. When Turbo stopped the rebellion in Alexandria and turned toward Cyprus, Lucas moved into Mesopotamia and stirred up the uprising there. Emperor Trajan called upon another man to stop this part of the Jewish revolt, a Berber general named Lusius Quietus. It is from him that the entire Kitos War gets its name today. The Berbers were a nomadic tribe from the northern coast of Africa who had come under Roman rule. It was rare for a non-Roman to achieve such high status in the Roman army, and it is possible Quietus had royal standing amongst the Berbers alongside his Roman citizenship. That might have helped him start his career, but he earned his rank by working hard as an auxiliary officer in several army units. He served well under Emperor Trajan, who was so impressed that he made Quietus a senator. From there, he demonstrated his skill and loyalty during the Parthian campaign, winning him fame and influence. By 117 CE, Emperor Trajan entrusted Quietus with stopping the rebellion in Mesopotamia, starting with Judea. He was so successful that he moved on to Syria and helped Turbo in Cyprus, defeating and humiliating the rebels as he went. His tactics were cruel, and anyone who held to their original beliefs was killed. Even though Quietus was harsh and inhumane towards the Jewish people, he did end the rebellion in 117 CE, making him the most effective commander in the Kitos War. This is why the war was named after him. However, Quietus did not enjoy his fame and success for long. When Emperor Trajan died in 117 CE, Hadrian became the next ruler and saw Quietus as a threat to his power. Instead of rewarding him for his loyalty and service during the Kitos War, Hadrian had him assassinated. What were the consequences of the Kitos War? The Kitos War ended in 117 CE, and different areas saw different repercussions of the rebellion. For example, Quietus killed all Jewish people remaining in Cyprus and destroyed all traces of their lives on the island. Although not all areas in the Roman Empire saw that level of violence, the consequences of the Kitos War did not inspire peace among the people. Historians believe that large numbers of Jewish people were either killed or displaced in Cyrene and Alexandria. The lost lives were so numerous that the Romans had to focus on repopulating these areas. Many displaced refugees fled to the Parthian Empire, where they settled in relative peace. They created a new center for other people of their faith, keeping their beliefs and traditions alive. Also, the Roman Empire did not attack all Jewish people in the empire for their religious beliefs. Turbo actually pardoned the Jewish people in Alexandria who had not participated in the rebellion, leaving them free to live quietly. However, there were also long-term consequences of the Kitos War, many of which centered around dissatisfaction and increased unease. The Jewish people were increasingly dissatisfied with the Roman occupation. They had never been pleased with it, but the violence of the Kitos War had shown that the Romans did not see the Jewish people as equals or worthy of respect. While the Romans looked down on anyone who wasn't Roman or Greek, the Jewish people were unhappy about their treatment. Aside from the brutality of the rebellion, the Romans openly displayed their favoritism in other ways, such as specific temple restorations. The Romans prioritized building and restoring Greek and Roman temples, and they overlooked or built on top of local religious sites, including old Jewish prayer areas. Such actions could lead anyone to resentment, and Emperor Hadrian widened the rift between the Jewish people and the Hellenized society around them. He built a new city on the ruins of Jerusalem. While Hadrian claimed that he was trying to restore the Jewish city, he Romanized it. It was so different from the city destroyed in the 70s CE that it was called Aelia Capitolina. Hadrian also issued a ban on castration, and some historians have suggested that this caused issues for the Jewish practice of circumcision. It was an essential part of their religious practices, but it is important to note that it was not a specifically Jewish practice. Banning circumcision would have significantly increased tension between the Jewish people and the emperor, even though Emperor Antonius Pius relaxed that law to diffuse unease. The Romans appear to have been aware of the dissatisfaction because, after the Kitos War, Judea became a consular province with at least 2 legions of soldiers constantly in the area. The soldiers were there to prevent further rebellions, but that did not stop the Jewish people from planning the Bar Kokhba revolt. It may have taken several decades, but once it exploded, it unleashed the resentment and dissatisfaction of a people who had been cruelly oppressed for too long. Although the Kitos War did not free the Jewish people from Roman occupation, it did show the remarkable resilience of the people. It also played an exciting part in ancient Roman history. It showcased the complexities of their politics as thousands of people died and the Roman Empire grew to its largest size. Impressive people took part in the conflict. Some lost their lives to political intrigue, and others had great success. However you look at the Kitos War, it was a critical time in ancient history that has been overlooked for too long, reminding us of the dangers of allowing hatred and oppression into our society and culture. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. To learn more about the Kitos War, check out our book, The Kitos War, a captivating guide to one of the Jewish-Roman wars. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.